expansion, dude. Where are we going? Specifically with the Big 12, because it's sort of like, I'm a forward-thinking dude, but I also I'm sitting here in the shadows of Villanova University where I grew up, right? I mean, that program, the Big East, has just changed so much over the last 4 or 5 years. ACC people. I mean, what is the ACC now? So where are we going with these conferences and with the expansion and realignment? What's the next move that you see happening?
Yeah, to say that the ACC is unstable is something that it is objective now when you consider Stanford and Cal are members of that conference. We forget that a lot. We kind of assimilated to the idea that Oregon's in the Big Ten. I think a lot of people are used to them on football, so many marquee games. Stanford and Cal weren't on TV very much in the ACC. We haven't wrapped our minds around it in totality. That league is kind of grasping at straws. And with their new money algorithm, this way that they're going to split up revenue based on how big your brand is, that's going to make schools like Louisville, Virginia Tech, NC State a little more upset, knowing that 1 or 2 bad years of football could bury them in the doldrums of the conference. And if they're making $6-7 million less in that year, that only puts you, as you mentioned, in the mud even more. So while Florida State and Clemson and Miami are all going to win here, schools like even North Carolina, who's in the middle of the pack from a viewership standpoint, will not exactly benefit from this new model where the ACC is going to pay you more based on your brand size. So that's the first thing to look at, is the ACC's instability. The second thing I look at is something we talked a lot about in the summer, this last summer. That's basketball. Gonzaga, what they bring to a conference like the Pac-12, and UConn, what they could bring to the Big 12, or San Diego State from basketball to football as well. And I just don't think Brett Yormark, with the instability of the ACC, is ready to take a basketball-only school, because what we know is that football keeps the lights on at the baseball stadium. There's no arguing that. Baseball doesn't make money outside of 3 or 4 universities in this country. It's not something that I'm, touting around. This is a good thing, but football is the bell cow. Yormark knows that. Even if UConn is generating $50 million a year in revenue in basketball, if they go 5 years of bad basketball, 5 years, they are automatically dead weight in your conference. That is understood about Gonzaga. It's understood about UConn. Anyone who makes their bet on basketball. So you look at the ACC, you've got to go there first and see Louisville, who would not be very happy with this new algorithm they've built, to a Virginia Tech, to an NC State. Even Georgia Tech could be a great addition to the Big 12. Brett Yormark says, we're open for business. We're always open for business to make moves that will benefit this conference. Those moves will likely come from the ACC. They won't be Memphis. They won't be USF. I believe Brett Yormark is holding out for the right move to bolster this conference, not add dead weight.
Could this happen over the course of the summer?
Yes. And the reason that it could is now Florida State and Clemson have the power to exit the ACC for a fee that's much less than the $500 million or $700 million people threw out there. Oh, well, they want to leave. They got to pay all this money. Now you can start to expedite that process, given the fee to exit the conference is lower than we expected, sitting around that $175 million mark. Those schools can afford it. And the second they pony up that money to do so, now Louisville says, oh, we can kind of do that too. And from there, if North Carolina or Miami also follow the curtails of Clemson and Florida State, we understand this grant of rights and the TV deal with ESPN, that league has to keep 14 schools. They must keep 14 football schools. If they dip to 13, from there, a lot of their contracts are becoming null and void. That's when phone calls can happen between Louisville and the Big 12. That we saw it with the Pac-12. Once that grant of rights starts to seep those cracks, things start to seep through, it is an avalanche. So watch Florida State, watch Clemson. If they make a move this summer, Miami will do the same. North Carolina will too. And from there, it's mass chaos. But I can confidently say by 2030, when the exit fee is more like $70-ish million or less for those schools at the top of the ACC, something will have to give.
I mean, it's amazing. It's so much to bite off and try to chew on. When you talk about football in the Big 12, there's a loss taking place this offseason, and it's Travis Hunter and it's Shedeur Sanders, and we'll see what happens with Colorado next year. Obviously, the Deion brand is still there. What do you think about the coverage of Shedeur Sanders heading into the draft? The reason I ask is, I'm an ESPN employee, so I'm not looking to begrudge or talk poorly about my employer at all. I do find it interesting that people on other networks or, Todd McShay's reporting on The Ringer about Shedeur Sanders, and maybe having a bad attitude during some of these meetings with teams, right? And you don't hear it at all from ESPN, really, because we know what Deion's like when, you kind of cross a line with Colorado. Yeah. What do you make of all that? All that smoke and, the reporting around Shedeur, and are there reporters maybe holding back? Because when you talk about the draft and it being on ESPN, there's going to be a lot of Travis Hunter, a lot of Shedeur Sanders. You want Deion to be involved. That'll really move the needle. What do you make of all this stuff that's going on right now around Shedeur? Not so much Travis, but Shedeur recently heading up to the draft.
It's a very complicated situation. It's the same reason that, if somebody is a credentialed member of the media at a university, and you'll get this, the last thing you want to do is write an article or an opinion that says X coach should be fired, because then the SID at the university picks up on that and you're blacklisted from ever showing up to an event ever again. So you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. And look, Colorado, Deion Sanders, he feeds a lot of the national media right now, for better or worse. People love controversy. When Deion takes a misstep, people love to pick it up. When Deion does something positive, they love to pick it up because he's such controversy is the right word. He's a controversial figure in sports. And now his son is getting roped into that. And we see with Bronny James, the whole Stephen A. Smith thing that happened last week. You are the son of a superstar, and the pressure that comes with that means the national media will talk. And many have talked negatively about Shedeur. I just see a confident kid in the same way that Cam Ward's confident, in the same way that Quinn Ewers has said some really confident stuff to the media over the course of the combine. That's what Shedeur Sanders is doing, but he's got the spotlight on him. The target's on his back because his last name is Sanders. His dad is Deion. Shedeur is a very confident quarterback. That's what I want in a program. But every year we hear this about some kid. A couple years ago it was C.J. Stroud. Oh, his IQ's not high enough. Oh, he can't pass this IQ test. Okay, now he's one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. People are, line out the door to watch him play.
Okay, yeah.
Right? That's what we see with Shedeur Sanders, is you're going to find something where the national media wants to write a headline, where somebody wants to write a headline. I think ESPN's done a good job of playing it down the middle with Shedeur, saying, look, he'll be a high draft pick. And we don't know about any of these guys, whether they're boom or they'll bust. And I don't doubt, knowing the moxie Deion carries, that maybe Shedeur walked into a meeting with the Giants and didn't take it as seriously as he did a meeting with somebody else, with the Patriots.
I think it's all calculated. I think it's all 100%. It goes back to, it goes back all the way to John and Jack Elway, right? Yeah. I mean, and then it goes back to the Mannings. This is nothing new. Yeah. So I like how they kind of can position themselves. Do you think Colorado next year will have the same, is this going to be when I was younger, it was Florida State didn't recruit, they reloaded, Are we looking now, is Deion like the next Bobby Bowden in a sense, where he's going to get the best guys in the country to come play for Colorado year in and year out, that as long as he's there, there's going to be a turnover that includes the best athletes in the country? Or did we have an exceptional year last year because of Shedeur and Travis?
We've got to understand you're replacing a top 3 draft pick and the Heisman Trophy winner. No matter what program you are, that's going to be very hard to do. But Juju Lewis coming in at quarterback, the true freshman, will be a star for them. Caden Salter also coming in creates a massive storyline over the quarterback battle. How does Deion Sanders level this quarterback battle and create competition out of it in this spring? And my favorite part of what Deion did, he didn't go get 50 guys again in the portal. He said, you know what, let's get 20, 25 and have positive attrition. If you leave our program, cool. We'll plug and play. We'll fill the holes where we need it. We don't need massive overhaul. He brought his bags. They were Louis. They won last year. Their defense is going to be good again. And he's hiring NFL caliber assistants in his program as well. The fact that he didn't overload from the portal shows me he feels confident in the longevity of that program, the consistency of that program. And that's a really good sign for a coach. You look at GJ Kinney, who's at Texas State, who brings in transfers year in and year out. Just kind of what he does. We thought for a while, hey, Deion's going to run an AAU program, revolving door. No, he didn't do that this offseason. He wants to build stability in Boulder. That's a really positive sign.